More than a decade has passed since Saturday Night Live met Chevy Chase. He was the rubber-faced, stumbling comic that helped break new ground in television. Lately, he's been the goofy father in National Lampoon's Vacation and the sarcastic reporter Fletch. But the man who brings these characters to life is an intensely self-critical artist, a person who works hard to keep the edge and the energy to pull it off. And he's a man who isn't sure he measures up, a driven perfectionist who's still trying to maintain the standards he set for himself on television in 1975.
Supposing I stayed on the show, supposing I didn't do anything but what I did on Saturday night, get kind of stale, wouldn't it? Be certainly stale for me. Of course I want to move on. The question of whether it has the same effect, nothing will ever have the same effect that the first thing that any big performing artist, celebrity did. The first one is the big one.
No problem.
But back then, I was really a writer. And when I went to Saturday night, that's what I was hired to do, was write, not to act.
It's just a word association. I'll throw you out a few words. Anything that comes to your mind, just throw it back at me, okay?
I mean, we're clowns. We wanted to get anything on television. We didn't want to say the F word. We didn't want to do that stuff. That was silly.
Negro.
Whitey.
Tar baby.
What'd you say?
Yeah, try to goose them. Try to get away with things. Try to break the envelope, the edge of the envelope for television standards.
Spear chucker.
White trash.
Jungle bunny.
Hunky.
Spade.
Hunky.
Nigger.
Dead hunky.
But basically what's funny is very simple. It's surprise. It's the element of surprise that makes people laugh.
He would write out, we would write together quite often, but sometimes he would write out if we didn't have an opening. He would write, and the script had to go to Mimeo, he would write me being funny.
Lorne Michaels had only a rough idea for a late-night show when he met Chevy Chase waiting in line for a Monty Python film and invited him to help create Saturday Night Live.
And in a certain way, he can't prepare for it. It's not comedy that can be rehearsed so much. It's about, at that moment, going as far as he possibly can with it.
The fun part of Saturday night was the opening. I would do all the openings, and it's that countdown, 5, 4, 3. In that instant, I used to do, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll see. I'd start walking off camera. People would go nuts. We've got 5 seconds. We're on live in front of 15 million people. Those are wonderful moments. They're great memories.
He was a very erratic student. He would not, you'd never know what he was going to do. He could be very brilliant and write very well. He was a rather careless fellow around school, I can say that.
Chevy's comedy training began at home with his father, book publisher Edward Chase.
The one thing the Chases never do is tell jokes. That's the most boring thing in the world. The humor it's got to be idiosyncratically yours, spontaneous, funny things you say.
It's a question of, would it be funny if, in a given circumstance? It's a great deal of the Marx Brothers and my father, his view of the sappishness and fatuousness of certain social norms and customs and ways of behaving. It permeates his letters to me, his manner of speaking to me.
I had Chevy and Nettie when I was quite young, so we were always almost, my contemporaries. I mean, we're always horsing around. And fake news releases, we'd put out news stories, the headlines and all that were really absolutely absurd when he was a kid.
This bulletin just in from Madrid, Spain, comes the word that Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. Doctors say his condition is unchanged.
Essentially, I guess you'd call it sarcasm, and a lot of it's repetitious, but it's pretty funny sometimes. We think it's funny anyhow.
Tremendous influence, obviously. Anybody's parents are a great influence in their life, either because they want to get away from them or because they want to prove something to them or emulate them. In my case, it's a combination of all three. Sometimes he's so funny I want to get away from him. I certainly like to emulate him, and I'd love him to approve of what I do.
There was a joke that I think he learned from his dad where he would excuse himself and he would have already filled a water pitcher or a watering can with water in a bathroom, and he would leave the door open, and you'd just hear the sound of water hitting water, but it would go on for so much longer than anything really should in that situation, and you'd be sitting in the other room and just hearing this sound, and it's the sort of joke that you do because I mean, to go to that effort and to do it, it's just funny. And the fact that Chevy was in effect sort of just fooling around was the most powerful thing about him on the show in the first year, and for a large part of the second year too.
But when I left Saturday Night Live, I was deeply involved with a girl out here in California, and I'd been in New York the whole year. And she basically gave me an ultimatum: come back, marry me, or goodbye. That was a difficult decision at that time. Very few people knew that. Most press that has ever been written about me has been to the effect that I was offered tremendous sums of money to leave and do movies. But in fact, I waited 3 years or so before I did a picture. I didn't think in terms of movies because I didn't like actors. Mostly because I was afraid of acting, I think.
I play detective. You play lady in distress.
Hey, wait a minute. It's my ass they're after.
I'm sorry. You're right. That was a stupid, glib, chauvinist remark, and I apologize. It is your ass they're after, and it's my job to see to it that I get there first.
I was terrible in foul play. But others like me. I was very self-conscious in that, and, you know, I tell you right now, all the time I would say, geez, I wasn't very good in that scene, and the director would look at me and say, oh, wait, they'll be looking at Goldie. I said, oh, Christ, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. Of course they'll be looking at Goldie. Look at her.
But in 15 films, audiences have loved to look at Chevy, too. From Foul Play to Funny Farm, his wit and his effortless charm have paid off at the box office, though they haven't always pleased the critics or Chevy himself.
I'm not too proud of any of them. I mean, I feel like Lee Marvin did a little bit. You know, he said, I've just made a lot of junk, and that's it. My life is junk, and you just take a swig and goodbye. I don't really feel that way, but I mean, I don't have any major pride in any. The ones I had the most fun with and enjoyed were Vacation, the first one. Funny Farm, I really enjoyed making. It was a different me. It was a very low-key me and didn't do too well at the box office. Three Amigos, much fun. Great fun to make. I think the best pictures, the best movies tell a story, and I think if there's anything that I've had trouble with in my pictures is that the stories are not that good. They are predominantly episodic. I mean, that's been the most major criticism of my pictures, that they are modular in some fashion, that they are bits and pieces, sketches of. I think Fletch was a good movie.
Come on, smile. Say Flesh. Look, defenseless babies. Fell for the oldest trick in the book.
And incidentally, because I say they're awful doesn't mean you shouldn't see them. Maybe that's one of the things people like about me, is that I'm willing to say, this is awful. This is awful, but there might be a tidbit in here for you, you know. They have made money. That's very good for me. Very good for my family. There's an adage in Hollywood that nobody's overpaid who's a star. I'm embarrassed sometimes at the amount of money they pay me. But the fact is, when it's all worked out, I'm making a lot more money for them than I'll ever see.
Actually, I noticed Linda's smiling more lately.
Nevertheless, Chevy's ability to get laughs gets him $6 million a film and his name above the title. That's paid for this rather substantial-looking house with tennis court in an exclusive Los Angeles neighborhood. And even his worst flop has been lucky for the star. During the filming of Under the Rainbow, he met the production coordinator and married her. Chevy and Janie Chase now have 3 daughters.
Just go get on some tennis talks. Because I can only hit for a little while, then I've got a whole 60 minutes thing I have to do. And some Barbara Walters thing. I told her to wait. So you can close on.
Janie Chase helped her husband face up to a problem he'd been struggling with for years. All those falls on Saturday night had seriously injured his back. In 1986, he checked into the Betty Ford Center for addiction to painkillers.
It's not to say that I haven't tried everything in my day, but I did not go to Betty Ford as a cocaine addict or an alcoholic. I went there because I was taking too many painkillers, and on top of that, adding liquor and at any given point, any other substance, and not really realizing it, getting fat, out of shape. It was not clear, even to my own family or to me, that it had made any major difference in my personality until after I came out of the place, even after a short 2 weeks of detoxing, that I had had no perspective for years, that I had just been popping these things and not caring, and that I had been hurting myself. I didn't really know. I think maybe most people, even if they're cokeheads or freebasers or whatever they are, don't really know how deep they are in because they've lost their perspective. But I must say, I didn't go in as a heavy abuser in the way that the people I saw there were.
$35.
Today at 45, Chase is trim, fit, and still playing everything for laughs, including this practice session with his beloved L.A. Lakers.
You think we have a chance tomorrow night?
I'm going to be there.
Do we think we have a chance tomorrow
Yeah,
night?
that guy's not tall.
Not go. You see great.
The problem is, as you get more into this and you get older and you become more of an established star and you think, you know, you got a niche for yourself, these young little guys come up and they start taking over in areas that you thought you might be able to, you know. Now there are a bunch of younger guys who are doing things that I would like to have done. I'll never do something Tom Cruise can do. I don't care how small he is, still Tom Cruise. Tom Hanks, another very funny younger guy. They're coming up, they're on your tail. So you got to sort of stick with your strengths.
It's been disappointing in the sense that, I've always had the sense that Chevy, he did a little bit in the early Goldie Hawn movies, that he could be funny, but also have a debonair quality of romantic sex, too, which he's quite capable of, the little devil.
And I'm sure if he's looking at this, he's being critical and saying, oh, the kid never funny as me. I mean, I went a lot further in school than he did, you know, all that stuff. But the fact is, he's probably proud of me. And I'm proud of him.
Hello? Thank you. Said yes.
Yes.
I'm a happy guy. I'm also a nervous wreck. I also worry about box office. I also worry about the way this guy edited this picture I'm in, the music, how it stinks. I live a very busy life trying to make the product that I'm involved in as good as I can, too. But there's a point at which you have to accept who you are and just live with it. I'd like to have an Oscar. That would be nice. But I don't really know what it is, whether that's better than, I think it's more fun almost just hosting them, seeing all these nervous wrecks hoping they'll get one. So where do I get the enjoyment? From how it's received, from the box office? Not really. Ultimately, it comes in the doing of it. And in the doing of anything, there's always a progression. You always look to do it better. That's what life's about. So I'll always try to do better and better sequels.